Absolutely.
Excellent. Glad to have you all back. Now the work starts. First order of business, the meeting minutes from September the 14th.
I'll make a motion to approve with one change. Under attendees, Tom is no longer the deputy.
Correct. Strong.
Someone actually read it.
Thank you.
Just been promoted.
I'll second it.
A second, is there any discussion or concern? None, we should take the vote. Mr. Smith, approving the meeting minutes.
Yes.
Ms. Blair,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Marcian Boucher,
Yes.
Mr. Fenny. Yes. Ms. Labar,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Quimby,
Yes.
Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
Ms. Collins,
Yes.
and I too am a yes. Carries. Don, looks like nobody signed in besides our membership.
I don't see any attendees.
No. Okay, well then, moving along to schedule and process update, Mr. Murphy.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. All right. And congratulations, everyone. All done. I know it's been a long couple of years, but definitely a worthy celebratory meeting today. So we did set up the meeting just in case we had to be talking about something else today. But we don't have a huge presentation for you. We did want to talk about next steps now that the vote has passed. So I did print out just a summary of the schedule, and you have a copy of that. So you'll see at the top here, another bar that we got to close out, the Module 4 schematic design. So we are through with that process with the Mass School Building Authority on October 25th. They approved the project scope and budget. The project scope and budget agreement documentation has all been sent to the town. Now that you have an approved vote, the next step in the process is to have the town council appropriate the full project cost, which is scheduled to take place on Tuesday of next week, the 14th. So once that appropriation is made, we will then have the information that we need to go back to the state to finalize that project scope and budget agreement. Right. And at the same time, we're running the construction manager at risk procurement process. We sent out the request for qualifications ahead of the vote. The hope there was to try to get the qualifications packages and go through all of that stuff and get a contractor on board, hopefully by the end of the year. So the qualifications packages are due on November 15th. We did receive, there were 7 construction managers who took out, who asked me for the RFQ. So what we have 1 back out.
Yeah.
So Shawmut did back out, but the other companies that are in the mix are Consigli, Bar and Bar, Fontaine, Gilbane, Whiting Turner, and DOC for the school project. And then DA Sullivan did take out the RFQ for the pool project.
I'm sorry, Ben, the first 6 were both projects, right?
We're for both, correct? I should have said that. Yes, for both.
Say again, Consigli,
I know you said.
Bar and Bar.
Yes, so it's Consigli, Bar and Bar, Fontaine, Gilbane, Daniel O'Connell's sons, and Whiting Turner. Shawmut did show some interest, but ultimately they informed us that they
didn't have a team.
But 6 very worthy contractors that we think could do this project. We're going to go through the qualifications phase. We'll take a look at their submissions. The plan is to have Skanska kind of do the legwork of all the, RFQ checking, if you will. We do need to schedule a subcommittee meeting, though, or a selection committee meeting, just to go through the qualifications. Like I said, I'm not expecting that any of these firms will not be qualified, but we would like an opportunity to sit with the selection committee, go through that information, and then should everybody be okay with it, we'll be offering or we'll be sending requests for proposals to each of the qualified CM firms after that. So
RFP already drafted?
the RFP is drafted. We can send that along for you folks to take a look at. So my thought there is once we get the qualification package on the 15th, maybe we need a week. I understand we're up against it with the holidays and everything. I'm thinking
Last week of November, the week of.
that's what I'm thinking. The week of the 27th, if we could pick a day.
Review your findings.
Just to review our findings. I'm not expecting that we need a whole heck of a lot of time for that, but we should probably schedule a time just to sit down with, and I don't recall exactly who was on the subcommittee.
Yeah, it's me, Bruce, Beth, Frank.
Okay.
And one of you and one of you.
We want to try to find a time for that right now or
Right, that's not a,
that one remote. I'll set that one up as a Zoom. We'll go through our evaluation matrix and everything and,
And then how do we pick?
so once the qualifications are all figured out, we will issue this request for proposal to each of the qualified contractors. They then will submit their proposal for the project. So I expect to get that.
It's a qualifications-based selection. So they do give us pricing, but we're supposed to select them based on qualifications, who we think is best.
two-step.
So we don't have to take the least expensive. Is that
We
what?
don't have to do.
Take what you want.
Right.
That's,
Any of them?
We can negotiate, we can't negotiate fee. That has to be what's stated in the proposal, but we can negotiate general conditions and general requirements.
And our general requirements, I'm sorry, you kind of, I'm not gonna say you create them, but they're based on certain things that you've set in place for them or that the state has set in place.
It's like
No, it's.
trailers,
It is.
toilets.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
those type of things. But Dale, one question for you though. If we qualify 6 firms and we get 6 packages, we have to interview all.
Correct. Yeah. The one question you're going to ask during the qualification, are they qualified? Yes or no? If it's yes, they all interview. I don't know if you remember, and this is probably not popular, but we used to do a lot of interviews on Saturday, just spend the day. Now you used to call it CMs. What do you think after? And I said, we like it because the team's not distracted by day-to-day events. So we started 8:00 in the morning or 9 and just went all the way through. And end of the day, we'll give you check sheets to fill in like notes and stuff. And my recommendation, put the fee to the side. Like John said, we don't negotiate all that. Pick who you want. Who's the best qualified team.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, because it's fresh in your mind, pick one that day.
Does team.
Back from me. Yeah, make a recommendation, be done with it. I know it's a whole Saturday, but I mean, this is the contractor's going to build your building.
Yeah.
It's very important, extremely important.
so to be clear, the qualification process in advance of the interviews is just to get to the,
Yes or no?
then
How's that?
the day of the interviews, it's a fresh slate and whatever criteria the committee chooses in reviewing the interviews is determines who's going to.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So when you do the qual, say there's a company and you're not really sure, you can ask them a question just for that one company. What about your current workload? Is this your, I always ask that question. That's my question.
Good to know.
Is this the team guaranteed from beginning to the end? And typically a lot of the owners of the companies there or the principals. So you get, the feedback from them and, and you can have just, everyone's going to talk about schedule, budget, like that's normal, but you really want to dig into questions for each contractor.
So it's really a similar process to when we chose the OPM.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Because we
Yeah.
had to all interview and then ask questions and.
All right. Yep.
And
Whoever you pick, and then, John does a great job in Ben too of looking at the GCs, the GRs. The fee is fixed, and they're always the same, but make sure they don't want to overstaff or understaff it, believe it or not. You want to compare apples to apples. So end of the day, you get the right contractor.
what's the strategy for the one that just took for the pool? We even consider that if they're qualified?
I think we have to just we're hoping, we get our fingers crossed they don't submit, but
Yeah. Can we say to them, we're hoping to have the same? Or no? Just go. Okay. Yep, fair. That's fair.
Same payment, same.
Are they qualified?
No, if they're not going to do the school, it'd be tough to have 2 groups in here, I think.
Right,
What-
you need 2 days to interview?
well, what Ben and I think we should do is we'll do a 30-minute interview for the school
Mhm.
and then do a 20-minute interview for the pool
Mm.
and do them back to back for each company.
Mm,
I think we have to have 2
you do,
separate.
because you
yeah.
issued 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hello.
And we can figure out when we sit down with the selection committee, what makes sense for scheduling the interviews and all that stuff. It's not something we get to set in stone today.
So if you're getting through quals at the end of the month, RFPs before Christmas?
Yeah, I want to issue the RFP probably first week of December.
Okay, so you're interviewing in January.
So give them 4 weeks. I know the Christmas falls between there, but 4 weeks is plenty of time. So we'll be getting the RFP. So we'll get their proposals first, second week of January.
Do we want to set a time for that Saturday gathering? Just because it's that time of year.
For January.
Qualifications,
Yeah. Yes.
qualify.
Yeah, so we've got the RFPs due right now, first week of January. I do expect we'll need probably, we can bang this out as quickly as we can, but we'll probably need at least a week there. I'd like to get 2 weeks for the review just so that we can come to you folks with our full evaluation of it. So realistically, I would say interviews would probably fall on, is that 20th?
That's President's Day weekend, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
I think I'm not sure.
Let's go.
The 20th is Martin Luther. No, it's not.
That's February.
When do you think they're back then? First week? Second?
Yeah, first week of January. So anytime, we
Saturday the 20th?
need a little time to review, but
You could. It's just a popular travel weekend. Holiday.
15th is Martin Luther King.
Oh, that is,
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry, I was off a week.
Early, yeah. All right. So we want to do the 20th?
How's everybody feel about Saturday? Can we?
I could just add it. If I know it's happening,
A long day or?
Yep.
2 long days? Yep. There you go, John.
20th?
would here be an appropriate place to hold those or?
See why not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gordon, does that sound okay to you?
That sounds fine.
He's just happy. He's getting ready to go. Alberto's is in 2 hours down there. So.
I know nothing about that, Beth. Working.
All right. All right. So that's where we're at with the CM process.
Ben, did we settle on the quals call? Do we want to do that now or you just want to send dates around and?
We have not yet. I'd love to put a date to it. Like I said, I'm thinking that week of 11/27. If we could free up an hour of time, we probably will not need all of that, but
Wednesday the 29th? Anyone?
Sure. She says dubiously. Yep. So that'll be a Zoom.
yes.
That's 2:00 for people.
Mhm.
Yep. Mr. Brennan, good? Yep. You, Ben?
Yep.
Works. So I'll set up a Zoom and send it out to the committee members. Perfect.
We were not going to need LCAT for those, right? Or are we?
No.
Okay, all right, good. Thanks. You're welcome.
Right.
All right. All right. And then do we want to get into the rest of it? The design team will also be starting with the DD phase. So module 6. I think we have our DD set going in March to the
29.
Yeah.
Right, so we just want to talk a little bit about so the window here is we're just beginning a year, a little less than a year of focused design time. So we have multiple deliverables to the MSBA as part of the process there. So in the same way that the feasibility went in phases, we kind of get to a point, we have to check in at that point. So our first check-in is DD, and that's due in March. But then we have after that a 60% delivery that's due in September. Correct me if I'm looking at what I think is the most accurate.
Sounds I shouldn't have collapsed these, but
Okay. And then we get to the 90% that's in November. But prior to that, we are starting to talk at some point once we have the CM involved, there is a conversation about, what work might be happening kind of prior to us getting to 100% on design. So that is open still, obviously, to some discussion. But just so everybody understands, we have multiple iterations of work ahead of us where we're building the documents out. So in DD, what we know, looking at where we were on schematic design, that established our project budget and that established scope. But then within that, the design team needs to go back in and start focusing on the specific things that the district probably didn't weigh in with enough detail yet, because it was silly to ask too much. It's like when Cora wanted to know where we could put the scoreboard in the pool. We said, we've got a scoreboard. That's all we need to worry about. And now we'll start focusing on those questions. So we have some areas of the program that we are very confident are well shaken out, and some that are not. So the design team will kind of, in focused ways, go back to the one thing that matters to us is that we talk a little bit about the decision-making process and the role of these committees that we've had thus far, because what we've needed to get to schematic design and what we need to get to DD this year. So we've been talking a little bit about it internally, and we'll be doing 2 days of focus programming. Again, even though it always feels like we've done it already, we'll do it again, where a small team will come to the school and have very focused conversations with, say, science, because we've met with them once, but we want to meet with them again and really go through actually the room plan, specific needs. So that's going to happen soon. When it comes to the school building committee and the SLT, we kind of think things change a little bit at this point, and that one thought is that we discuss that, because there is a school that's going to ultimately change how it delivers curriculum based on having all this new capability in a school. So there's a lot of conversations we need to have with the district about how IT changes, how classroom furniture is relating to that, and how professional development in advance of the school opening will be relevant, how operations of the school long-term are going to matter. That stuff is really not stuff we typically do in the school building committee. We might report on it here, but we don't typically take this time. The time here is more about keeping us on track and on budget, getting that delivery review and things like that. So we would ideally make the SLT, I think, which has been a little bit more granular, that place where those kind of school design issues are worked out, with a lot of focus on from Frank and probably Heather and perhaps others who weren't on the SLT that should be. EBW needs to be there because there's organizational things there. So that's one idea as to how we get that input on a school this size, and do it efficiently. And then we report to the school building committee, and we will continue to engage those focus groups that we had as needed. So we had athletics, for instance, and where we need to reach out and kind of review that, we can still do that, but they wouldn't meet regularly. They would meet as needed. And then there was some discussion about the possibility of creating a finance subcommittee, which is a small group that will be really just reviewing things like we're talking about needing a PV consultant. So that scope of work, that consultant relationship, that reimbursable, and they would sort of get into the mode of reviewing things contractually. And by the time we get to, they'll probably engage with the CM contracting. And then when we get to construction, that committee then is already sort of familiar with, is then handling the first reviews of proposed change orders and bundling those for the school building committee. So that's our thought about, and then we have the pool committee, right? So that's 4 committees that we would be regularly meeting with, and we just want to be sure that we've thought that through. And
does Skanska play a role in all this design information solicitation from the user groups and so forth?
no, usually
They don't.
I mean, like you
Typically
design
attend.
information.
Yeah, not all the programming meetings necessarily, but
Yeah.
so remember from the last phases, we did have 3 sort of staffed focus groups. One is the educational planning group. The second was the site design, because it's a big site, there's a lot of things going on. And the third was a combination of sustainability and systems. So there's no reason why we can't keep the membership of those groups. And again, the mission of those groups is to meet, get in detail, and then bring it back here, which is what Dory is describing. There are going to be some other things that crop up. So things like security, I think that's, one where SLT kind of serves as that,
Right.
more focused.
Yeah.
Often SMMA forms an interior and exterior focus group. But in this case, in the prior phases, it was this group, right? Brian came, he brought the materials. Jones Woodson presented the interiors materials. So again, the question is this that group that that is going to get into that level of detail on interiors and exteriors, or is it done at SLT and then reported back out to the subgroup? So we're just thinking about process and efficiency and how best to get it done.
Yeah, and the OPM is always, there and present,
Yeah.
but I just, when you said solicit, I was thinking, well, it's not their responsibility.
That's a bad
Yeah.
word choice. So let me phrase it slightly differently. So as you guys are moving forward, gathering all the finer information that you need to do what you have to do, are they simply aware of it, or are they participating in the process? So just as an example, if there was to be some type of significant scope creep, and now we've got a budget problem, and I'm looking at Skanska saying, why didn't you do your job? And they're going to say, well, because I wasn't invited, or because we don't typically do that, or it was just an honest mistake, or whatever it may be. Right. As we all know, given the last several months, we are not going to suddenly stop getting attention.
Right.
We still need to all be thoughtful about how do we do this in the most transparent, effective way,
Right.
so that those who were not in favor can perhaps recognize we are being good stewards
Sure.
of the town's dollars.
So a couple things on that. We meet every Friday with the OPM.
Every other.
Every other Friday. Sorry.
It feels like every, no,
Lot of
I'm
meetings,
kidding.
where we make sure that we're communicating directly. They are aware of the meetings we're having. And we are still reporting to SLT and school building committee. So anytime anything that might look or feel like scope creep comes up, I think there's plenty of channels for that to be, everybody to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And then in the process, the DD and 60% set, the process is very much like the process you saw at SD, where we again go out to two estimators. One is the designer's estimator, the other comes with we still resolve those numbers. We still see if anything is moving on scope or cost. We still resolve it back to the project budget before we move forward. So there's still that BE process, which the OPM manages entirely, and that happens.
Yeah, and we'll be involved with any focus group meeting. Steve will definitely be in attendance, and Dora, we can certainly help coordinate that. Typically we do in terms of, I know that's a lot for, getting in touch with the official disciplines and getting everybody involved. So we're definitely willing to help coordinate that effort. But yeah, we'll definitely be in those meetings as well.
In terms of the decision making, there's a lot of people in this room that maybe don't want to go to a lot of meetings into that detail. And I think that's what you're getting at. So I would say the SLT team could do that. However, to invite others that aren't on the SLT team that might want to be in the minutia of the detail might be appropriate, because we've all come this far.
Yeah.
So everyone can make their own decision whether they want to proceed in detail or proceed at a higher level. That sound?
Because
I think that's entirely appropriate.
Well, I'd imagine we're going to continue meeting regularly with this committee. So if that's monthly, I think we can go through, Greg, the scheduled meetings and just see who wants to be involved at that point with those.
Yeah.
Frank was just mentioning the other day that he wants to be in more meetings.
I heard him.
Well, and part of why I bring this issue up. Part of why I bring this issue up is that I want everybody to see what it looks like. It's a lot, and Frank and I do this all the time. I'm going to torture you for another year. That it's a lot for the administration. So I'm also kind of moving towards that point that for the principal of the school to facilitate getting us the information we need and attend all these meetings, and is a lot. So we will also be asking, because a lot of it is wrangling, frankly, the right teachers into the room and the right custodial staff into the room. That's kind of a lot for Frank, and even with the OPM's help, I think it'd be good to think about who else might be able to help facilitate that. Heather was very, very helpful during SD in helping to facilitate that, because she was in the building and she kind of knew the players as well. But that's something we would ask you think about, because it doesn't stop. And we've found here that it's often better for us to come here and meet with people than to try. And some projects you can do a lot through Zoom, but with the staff here, they're pretty busy. So better for us to be here to meet with them. But we need help scheduling it.
I know I'm happy with anything on SLT. I just didn't want to be part of it. So, but that. I think.
Yeah.
Like if I can help Frank, I will.
I'm sorry about.
Very quickly, we've got some dates that we're already looking at for those programming conversations.
I thought sure you were going to say October. That's all right. All right, so that's taking shape.
It is.
We'll figure out a way to keep people informed. So if there is any particular subject matter you want to be involved in, like a facade or a mechanical system or what have you, then we'll get those people plugged in.
Yeah, and if it, for some reason now is the time for people to think about whether they need to kind of reorient,
Right.
that's something that.
And just as an aside relative to that, if any of this is becoming too cumbersome for someone, don't hesitate to raise your hand and just say, look, I've got too much happening right now. Right? I can't be part of this. If I am part of it, I'm not going to be productive. Right? Don't slow the whole bus down simply because things are changing. We all need to have that flexibility.
I think what we'll do is republish the members lists of those 3 formally formed focus groups and, have a look at it and ask people, you still want to participate. So it's not going to be a ton of, maybe one or 2 meetings over the next many months, but it's fair. It's a fair question.
Do you want to form that finance group as well today? Like to?
We could, I mean,
I think Pam should be on it.
Definitely, yeah, I'd like to be on it.
I think I'd like to be on it as well.
I don't want to volunteer, Kim.
Can someone restate the function of that group?
in the end, it becomes kind of useful to have a small group that you can convene that represents, in this case, probably I'd say the town, the district, the committee, that can review any contractual financial decision-making that has to get reviewed. So even right now we have reimbursables, right? So there's things that come up, we have a budget for that, but there may be a consultant decision that's being made where it'd be great, for everybody to be aware of it. And do it fairly quickly. Down the road, when you get into construction, it's helpful to have a group that can not impede the movement of construction by being able to meet and review an unforeseen condition that has a cost where the CM wants to keep moving forward. So it's kind of helpful for that group to, form before you get to construction and get familiar with
That will be so the least of your worries. Believe me. You will not have to wait for us. You can write that down.
Well, people say that, but then when you have a large committee and everybody wants to hear it, it can take time. So it's good to at least have it.
So in some other projects, we've been able to delegate authority, approval authority to, one job I'm thinking about is to the superintendent. So she could sign change orders of $100,000 or less. You could pick whatever threshold you want. Otherwise, we got to have this committee and meet once a month and go through every change order. And
We're going to need to think that through a little bit more.
Yeah.
We're not prepared to do that today.
Yeah, plenty of time for that. I think what Joy's saying is this committee can sometimes help graduate into those
100%.
types of decisions. Okay. But yeah, for now, it's more of a proposal for geotechnical investigations that we would like to get approved before we have the next school building committee meeting. Could you guys evaluate that?
Let's discuss internally.
isn't that in your scope of work? I mean, until we approve your contract, you can.
Right, okay, so I guess
Goes through
the
you
PV
guys.
consultant is a better
Right.
example.
What?
PV outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not part of your basic scope or?
Oh, the reimbursables. Yeah,
Of the
no, it's not,
reimbursables.
no, it's not a typical service.
Well, why don't we build it in your contract so we don't have to get approval and everything?
Well, it is in a way through other,
Yeah.
maybe this is a topic for tomorrow at 8:30.
Okay.
So I think we gotta-
Talk about what proposals fall where.
Just while I'm thinking about it, I would strongly encourage a robust drone test pit operation. I think to spend money doing some investigation is going to save you a fortune and in different conditions. So I would drill extra holes and dig extra holes and
So we'd love to have your eyes on, we have a
Yeah.
proposal from OTO. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of interaction
Yeah.
we'd like to have soon. Get it going.
we, as I said, we did the Conic High School and they did borings and didn't really find anything. And then when we actually started digging, it was all dump. They had dumped the asphalt and everything else there. So it was cost $1 million to So hopefully we don't have anything like that here, but
That's exactly the example.
better know ahead of time. Yeah.
Want to think it all through and spend money at the
Yeah,
times that
yeah.
spend less.
So,
Right, so just to close this one off, so you're gonna circulate the old committees so people can be refreshed on,
Yep.
we're part of this, do you want to stay, do you not? There'll be the establishment of likely a couple of more committees that are gonna
Mhm.
take some shape over the next couple of weeks to month. And then we're pushing.
Yeah, and DD, we really, we just definitely want to make sure we've got the program fully confirmed. Because now it's real. Now there's a plan to look at and, a building that's taking the third dimension. So important.
Okay, anything else on that topic, Benjamin or design team?
I think that's it for me.
Commissioning agent, you want to bring up?
Commissioning agent.
Commissioning agent gets involved in DD.
Usually we get,
Yeah.
DD, we will be getting assigned a commissioning agent. So
Yeah.
try to set up a kickoff meeting with them. I don't know actually how quickly.
Ben, maybe you could just tell us what a commissioning agent.
Exactly, I was going to say.
Thank you.
Sure. So commissioning agent is actually, it's actually paid for by the Mass School Building Authority. So it's an extra check and balance, if you will, on the project. What they'll do is they'll go through and verify MEP systems. They'll be along for so if they get involved, I do believe it is early in DD. They're involved throughout the whole submittal process. So they're seeing things come together. They're able to make comments on systems and equipment. But ultimately, they're there really to check the systems to make sure that they operate as intended. And so we'll be seeing them a lot more at the end of the project in terms of actual, functional testing of the equipment and things of that nature. And we need their approval by the end of it. Just another way for MSBA to make sure that what we're putting out there is
So
actually
that question
legitimate.
that we answered a month or so ago, and someone's like, how could all these things happen on a project? This is one of the safeguards they built in.
That's another set of eyes.
It's also a commissioning agent for the building envelope
Correct.
as
I should
well.
mention that.
So-
A different one?
So it's the same commissioning agent typically, but they'll have a different art. Either they'll sub it out or it's within their firm. They'll have a building enclosure specialist who will be taking a look at the facade and the roof of the whole envelope. And at the end, you'll get a infrared scan of the whole building just to see if there's any thermal anomalies or if we have any issues that we need to address to make sure that the building is as tight as it needs to be.
There's two other important elements there. There's another kind of commissioning, which is that to achieve the mass save incentives that we talked about, they've assigned an expert who will also be engaged and has already met with us and had started, just introduced himself so that they'll be reviewing the project. And as we present the design, they'll say, you could maybe optimize this and achieve this. They'll be kind of running their own analysis as we're going to try and help be sure that we meet that 25 EUI target that brings money back to the district. And then we also have the LEED certification process. So as a LEED school, there's a whole bunch of those credits that we talked about that require paperwork to be sure that we achieve them. Some of which is paperwork the district has to file.
Is that all you guys or is that a third party?
It's within the team, between SMA and JWA. Yeah. And
With your own resources?
Yeah. So that's part of our contract. And we have specialists in both teams, as well as we're bringing a kind of someone who we keep on to help with the construction credits to be sure that all that paperwork is submitted and achieved so that we achieve the LEED certification requirement. So I bring that up just because there are things that we talk about in design that require owner kind of decision making and owner input. So it's again another little thing that is highly bureaucratic, but also about it being sure that the building meets certain indoor air quality standards or sort of shared use agreement plans, things like that. So it's all part of being sure that long-term maintenance and all those things are addressed as much as we can during design. So. And that's why this project is so long, is because the design team actually has to handle reviews from all of those different parties throughout the process.
Which makes us glad we have such a strong team.
Yes. And the team will grow, by the way. You'll see new faces as we expand from here. We already started our kickoff and introduced a few more players and refreshed the model in the drawing environment and kind of checked in on what everybody needs to move, but there will be some new players.
Excellent. That's all. Good news. Anything else on process? Anyone? Pamela, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Before, I was just going to make a comment about the commissioning agent. I remember with any MSBA project, even the accelerator repair project, so we've done door and windows and the roof over at Meadowbrook, and the commissioning agent would come in and even sit in some of our meetings. They just kind of come in, so you get to know them too and feel even more confident that your project is being done well. So.
I think that's the agenda. Is there any new business anyone would like to put on the table?
Steve, I just had a couple things to recap from the process so far. Things and talking to people as we go through this process that I just want to bring forward, especially the town side. Our big issue, I'm sure you've heard that a lot, roads, fixing roads, affordable housing, a number of not only seniors, but younger individuals that mention the lack of affordable housing when we talk taxes, tax implication. You know, I'm just telling these long term because I feel I have a responsibility to bring that forward to both of you specifically. And certainly anything I can do to help with those. And then the other last thing I just want to mention was the voting entrance was all backed out. And I know that people probably didn't come in because it was so backed out. And the issue wasn't parking, but the issue was the bottleneck. So I don't know if Jeannie can work on that with police chief to just improve that flow coming in off of the tree. Yeah.
It's tough because it's tight backing up, but when the school's done, maybe it's time to.
I don't know if we can look at that holistic because I think people probably left because when I pulled up to it, I thought, oh my gosh, and I know it was a 20-minute wait just to get in. I just went around to the other entrance and zoomed right in and got out before people even got in. So just wanted to mention those three things. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah.
Thanks, Greg.
Another issue I forgot. So we're thinking about this. We want to bring it back up that we've talked about it before, but now that the whole town has been made much more aware of the project, and you all have seen the way students have engaged on the project through the outreach effort. We wanted to bring back the question about how we might formally engage and have more student voice now that we're getting into the detailing of the project, whether student seat on the SLT or some specific set focus group. You know, we've met with students and gathered some input in bits. But
three great seniors that advise the school committee, and that would be a good to tap into.
Yeah, I mean, you five are all schools all day. Maybe you could send forward just some suggestions of what you've seen that was effective. I mean, I think that's a great idea. Have some kids plugged in, but
Gordon,
like the PR doesn't stop.
Right.
Right. This is a continuous process for the next 3 years.
Yeah, but I think even because we can hear from students, but the decision makers need to act. To some degree, we can try and advocate for things we hear from them, but I think it's really, really helpful that if the school district is talking about delivery of curriculum in the classroom and students are present, then that actually kind of really does help to everyone to really acknowledge where things are going from their experience. So being sure that that's actually kind of, you know, has a real formal vehicle is important. It's a little different than just.
Do you want more of a focus group or someone to come along?
I think it'd be great to have a couple, have a couple seats maybe on the SLT. And that's not like a voting board, but it's just a board that's actually wrestling with the issues. And then maybe a second mechanism that's broader, right? So that they can also hear what other students are thinking. So we could.
It'd be interesting to have an underclassman.
Yeah.
And, and a senior lived it, right? They can tell you, right? The underclassman's got it in front of them.
Yeah. And can transition, you know.
Those are good ideas.
It could be like on the SLT and the group of students that spoke.
I'll coordinate that, Frank. Maybe Frank would be the contact to coordinate some of that.
How does that work on a 1 p.m. on a Thursday to integrate if we keep that time, presumably, for a student?
Be in class.
Exactly. So what period
If you
is
move
that?
if you move the SLT meeting to 2:00, Frank and I have met with the group that meets or is our liaison to the school committee, and we can add students to that group, and we just move the meeting to 2:00.
Oh,
Does that
that's,
sound reasonable, Frank?
Good idea.
That'll play.
and that's a group you regularly meet with already as well?
It's a month right now.
We've been meeting with them every other month.
Every
Yeah.
other. How often would you want the students involved? We could potentially talk to them about increasing it. It's the same. group of
Yeah.
kids. Yeah, I mean, they're busy too. I don't, and thankful for their 2 hours that they
Yeah.
school committee with us for, so.
It's a pretty good quantity. I mean, because that sort of falls along every section of the project will have a window where we could do that. I wouldn't want to add more stress if they're already engaged. So if that's something we can plug into,
Yeah, makes
that's
sense.
great.
Meaning monthly?
Yeah, that monthly opportunity.
Cool. Is there a timeline on all the new MSBA paperwork? I know we have to wait for the vote, obviously, but like town council, for instance, SEL has already filled out their portion and it's now just waiting for the vote. So what's the timeline on all that stuff to get back?
Get 120 days from the project scope and budget meeting. So it's 120 days from October 25th. So you got some time here. But yeah, after next week, something I'll go, oh, we should try to put a bow on that.
I'd rather not, it wouldn't not be on my desk for 120 days. But yeah, sure.
Yeah, we get some time though. Stress.
We can work through all their points, Tom, next week if you want. You and I can go through each of the points in that letter and make sure that, we're hitting each one. And I believe I saw that we're on the agenda. The appropriation, both motions are on the agenda under financial matters. Jeannie sent it out earlier, and we're all set with that motion. That's the appropriate motion. I know Ben and Kim were going back and forth on that. We're all set with that?
Yep, the motion that Kim had was the finalized version, Gordon.
At MSBA,
At MSBA, I checked off, yeah.
and we increased the percentage from due to the 25th board meeting, right?
That is correct. So just to bring everybody up to speed, when we originally drafted the motion, we didn't want to assume anything. So we kept in the language the base reimbursement rate because we didn't want to expect that we're going to get the additional incentive points. We kind of figured we would, but we didn't want to risk anything there. So we put it in as the base. But then since the state has approved the project, Kim reached back out to me for the full incentive point value, which is 61.25. There's a few extra points in there. So that has been revised on the language. We did reach out to MSBA just to make sure that they didn't want to see another draft or anything like that. And they were good with it. So I think we're all set.
Excellent. Good work.
So
Thank you.
anecdotally, Whitman Hanson's down here, and they think that MSBA's 25th board meeting kicked their vote to a yes as well.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they were really excited, and they're now celebrating with a new project.
Excellent. Any other new business in the room? Seeing,
Could we maybe,
oh, sorry.
could we potentially put some dates out there for building committee meetings? I know it's up to do around the holidays, but I figure if we could do it.
Cheers, my friend.
So, looking in December,
Yeah, right.
Crazy.
The Christmas last week.
looking at December 14th as a possibility.
Thursday.
3 o'clock.
Looks like mark it down.
Great, yep.
14th. Yeah.
All right, December 14th at 3 p.m. it is. Does that work for you guys? All right.
That one happens to work, but yeah.
What's that?
Happens to work, but we don't want to take it.
No, it's good.
Okay.
Right, the 14th is out. What do we say?
Yeah, 14.
14th.
Thank you.
Okay, so that would be SL.
I think it'd be good to reach out to the pool building committee and see if we can back to back.
Next SLT, did we?
Yeah, we got to schedule that because I had to cancel a few of them. You want to talk offline about that or you want to do that? No, I'm good with whatever, Dory.
let's see.
Well, if you shift it next Thursday,
Could
then
do.
you'll
Yeah.
skip over. things.
Right, because that would be the.
Want me to just set it up 16th and then jump back on the 30th?
That
Yeah.
ends up being.
Right.
Miss Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's great.
16th and 30th.
16th and 30th, so I'll adjust that in our.
PMs.
I think so. We're, it sounds like we're potentially making the change to 2 PM eventually. Should we do that now? It doesn't make a difference to me. I could do 2 just as well. If that's going to be better down the line for the student
I'm that way anyway.
as well, right?
As well, let's just do it now.
I know, I'm gonna just kidding.
Zoom that way anyway for the first.
All right. Very good. You guys are.
One quick question. Just now that everything's approved, the budget's all set, in the next month or so, bands are coming due in February. We will start to look at timing for bands and going out for bonding. So I just wanted to know if there's going to be an updated cash flow or if the one that you recently sent.
Nope,
Is
there's actually an updated one that I can send over to you, Kim, because it was actually requested by MSBA. And they're figuring out the whole project scope and budget, so they request the cash flow at that point. So I actually supplied that last week. I'll send it over to you this afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Make a copy of that, Ben.
Sure.
Frank, if I could just check in with you afterwards about the upcoming programming dates.
Look, you're getting.
I said before. You've already gotten there.
Steve, just want to acknowledge everybody on the work on the forums. I think those were key to the selling it.
Sorry?
The forums.
Yep.
I think they were awesome. And so for the team and our team who participated, I think that put us over the top on a lot of the things. I think we're
Everybody in this room.
in charge. Yeah. So I just wanted to mention those were awesome.
Officially done with the tours.
We're done with it.
You know, Greg, to that end, because we're being taped, I think it's important that we also recognize the work that Carolyn Farrows did with her
Yes.
team.
Yep,
Because that was a ton of outreach. That was 500 signs across town.
yep.
Right, all kinds of events. They did the recording with the students a couple of days before the vote. I mean, they really ran with it.
Agreed.
Yep,
Yeah.
they did.
Yep. That was awesome.
And they handled the heat well too, because they got heat. And they just ran with it and they were respectful to the seniors. They put out information for them. No, they really tried to, they did it with their heads held high, so.
New business in the room. Mr. Smith. Any new business?
All set.
Ms. Collins?
All set.
We're building a school?
Sounds like it.
And a pool.
And a pool.
Good, well played. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
Seeing none. Mr. Smith, motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Ms. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Page.
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes,
Jim Boucher,
yes.
Mr. Fenny. Yes. Ms. LeBar,
Yes. That's correct.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Quimby.
Yes.
Mr. Yep. Yes. Ms. Collins.
I have Phil's dates.
Yes.
That's a wrap.
We are.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you.